Room 237 is a Jumperscape audio production. You've entered a place of fear and dread. Welcome to Room 237.
Welcome to Room 237 in living color.
Crazy. It's wild.
It's really weird.
It's red in here.
It's very red.
I wrote an orange pen. Not helpful.
Yeah, we're testing video today, and it's definitely an experience already. And we just started.
Yeah. So today we watched Creepshow. Stephen King.
It is directed by George A. Romero.
Yes.
And written by Stephen King.
Correct. Came out in 1982. And according to IMDb, I don't know that this is actually true. Where is it? This was like Romero's only movie to come out as a box office number one.
That's weird. That's kind of wild.
Yeah.
Like Dawn of the Dead didn't, and Night of the Living Dead didn't.
Like to top out box office number one when released.
Well, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
But so this is our very first.
Open. It says open. Sorry.
This is our very first anthology movie. So I'm sure you know what an anthology movie means. It means it is more than one little movie. It's like multiple short films tied together with a through line, pretty much. Five short films.
He saw me counting on my notes the titles.
Like I know. I'm like
I thought it was 5. I wanted to double check my work though.
Yep. And this is definitely, I'm kind of almost regretting picking this right now because this feels like a Halloween kind of movie. But that's okay.
No, yeah.
Because I'm happy we'll
have so many movies that are going to be Halloween movies.
Yeah.
That it's going to be hard to pick. I think this one's fair to go on our prior to Halloween. It's August.
It's
almost.
By the time that you're listening, it is August. So it's basically
fall.
Halloween.
Yeah.
For me, as soon as the last firework goes off on 4th of July, it's Halloween. But this is definitely, I highly recommend this in your gauntlet of Halloween movie picks. It is perfectly corny. Mm-hmm. It's very like, I feel like I describe so many movies this way. It's very rated R Goosebumps.
Yeah. I also feel like one thing that was really weird, like when we were watching this movie, it is directed like it's on a stage. Did you notice that?
Yeah, kind of.
There was a lot of actors actively freezing for a shot instead of a shot actually being frozen.
Yeah. Which
you don't see in movies or on the screen, because why would they have to do that? But there was that. Lots of it was played very stage-like. And
very
because
big and expressive.
And, backdrops and sets were kind of minimal, and the props were kind of like, it felt more like a stage play almost that I was watching. It was kind of cool.
Yeah. I think my favorite part is just the presentation of this movie is really weird. They'll like put things in like neon frames, like flashbacks and stuff will be in these like neon picture frames.
It's so fun.
It's very analog almost, like, but also very colorful.
Well, because like it's trying to replicate like a superhero show.
Yeah, like a comic book.
Because it's a comic book.
Yeah.
So it's doing the backgrounds that would be behind someone when they're freaking out when it's a comic book, and the zigzag lines and stuff. And then
I'm just realizing how similar this is to Trick or Treat.
They're both anthology movies.
And they're both comic books.
Yeah.
That's pretty much where the similarities kind of end, but you know.
Yeah. This is more PG than that for sure.
And this also, I would say, it might be a little too graphic, but this was a great like beginner horror movie.
Oh yeah, it's just a small step up from Goosebumps. Well, the first couple ones are like a small step up from Goosebumps.
The last two,
the last
three,
the
actually.
last three are like, how did we get here? How did we end up here?
Like, they get really dark with their themes out of nowhere, kind of.
It's like
except the last one's just gross.
It's like you're watching The Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
This is definitely like this is Stephen King's Twilight Zone.
That's a good way to put it. I mean, you can see that's the thing with a lot of anthologies. They all have a lot of similarities to each other in their kind of goal.
Mm-hmm.
Because Twilight Zone is an anthology, obviously. And so is Trick or Treat, and so is this. And they all have they all scratch the same itch for me. Just short, digestible horror stories. Like with like where it's just kind of this is the kind of horror movie that Gen Z needs.
Yeah. I would say though,
like short attention spans.
But Twilight Zone isn't fun to watch. That's where the last three feel like Twilight Zone episodes, and the first two feel like a Goosebumps type thing. Because Twilight Zone is like scary in a way that is more like humanity scary. In you know what I mean? Like,
it depends on the episode. Some are pretty corny.
So I mean now.
Yeah, but maybe not at the time, I guess. But
like they cover very serious themes and stuff. That's where like the last three, it feels like it covers a very serious, like, oh, you wake up and you're the last man alive in the world kind of vibe. And like we've been talking about Trick or Treat as the comparable anthology. Those are just short, sweet horror stories. Except for maybe the one about the kids on the bus. That one's pretty.
That one gets pretty.
That one's pretty. That one's pretty heavy. But then, like the rest of them are like, ooh,
witches
supernatural
and ghouls,
things,
sexy werewolves,
boobies.
But I think that's just what I love about anthologies, though, is that I still stand by the word digestible.
Yeah,
it's just kind of a quick fix. And in this case, it's a movie, so it's multiple quick fixes of horror.
Yeah.
And the runtime, I don't know, how long was that? Like 2 hours?
It's 2 hours.
I forgot about the last story existing.
How do you forget that?
I was like, all right, I'm about to text Austin, time to get the deck downstairs and start recording. And then all of a sudden it starts loading up another one. I'm like, oh no, I forgot about the bugs.
No.
But I'm sure you're wondering, what are the stories? We will get into that shortly, but first we have to decide how many mail order voodoo dolls out of 10 do you give Creepshow?
Oh, that's fun. I like that one. I think I give Creepshow probably 8 mail order voodoo dolls out of 10.
And I agree with you 100%. About 8 mail order voodoo dolls out of 10.
It's cheesy. It's really campy. And it's definitely not even made, just released in 82.
Yeah.
It's definitely got that vibe, but
it scratches a very specific itch. You know what I mean?
It's like, yeah, it's something you want to watch around Halloween and like get cozy and then, go trick-or-treating.
It's perfect. It's perfect. Like perfect for that. It's not so intense, or it's not so bleak that like, because even like the more kind of heavy hitting subjects in some of the later stories, like are still surrounded by corniness and hammy performances that you can't take it too seriously.
Mhm. Yeah.
Which we will highlight a couple of my favorite. Just this movie has so many like hilarious performances.
Yeah, it's great. So we open in this household with this domestic situation going on. Absolutely terrifying father yelling at his son for reading a comic book.
Like, just the typical, like, what is this filth kind of stuff.
And I was looking down because I was writing my research notes down. Did it show that it was a comic book from the beginning? Okay, because I was listening while writing these notes, and I fully thought this kid had porn.
Oh no, he said it was a comic book. It was very obvious that it was a comic book.
Okay, because I was like, dude, chill out.
But yeah, this dad who I'm forgetting the actor's name, but he's the lead in Halloween 3: Season of the Witch. He's like just the ultimate 80s alcoholic father. Like, it's just like he literally goes downstairs and his like wife is like, I think you were a little too harsh on him, and he's like, that's why God makes fathers. That's why God made fathers. He just starts muttering that to himself while sipping on a whiskey. And
is that Stan? Yeah, his name was Stan.
Yeah.
It's Tom Adkins.
That was it. I knew it was a Tom. I could not remember his last name. But yeah, he just keeps muttering, that's why God made fathers. That's why God made fathers. Which, in a different context, that line would go hard as fuck. But it's in reference to basically like screaming at your child.
That was intense. I think because I feel like I've listened to someone watch the new show or something. Was Stephen King in it?
I've not watched the new show.
You've not watched it?
No.
I think that I could be wrong. Clarification, I could be wrong because I'm pretty sure I just heard this somewhere. I think that in the show, Stephen King plays the prologue dad.
Maybe.
Because that would be hilarious.
I literally can't tell.
The comedy. The comedy in that.
I can't see Stephen King playing that role, like, and taking him serious, like him, just going, that's why God made fathers. Like,
but like, can't you see him like trying to do it, like, or do like playing the role a similar way, just to like get the irony of it?
I mean, yeah, kinda.
Like rain on your wedding day. A free ride, but you already paid.
Jeez.
I saw Alanis Morissette in concert last week, so she's in my head. And Joan Jett winked at me. It's the monument of my life.
It's true.
I think I died and went to heaven.
But yeah, you go back to the kid in the room, and his comic book blows out of the garbage can, and like the pages start flipping, and you just hear like, it's this,
yeah.
And this like ghoul. I guess that's how you describe him. He's a ghoul.
Yeah.
He's just in the window. He's the guy on the cover for the movie.
He's so cool. Like he looks like a prop you'd find in a like haunted house or something.
He looks like Spirit Halloween.
He does. He is Spirit Halloween.
Maybe that's who he is. But I love this. He starts like beckoning, and then he turns into a cartoon.
It's amazing.
Like,
the switch here is perfect, where it's because they have the like actual physical prop turn its eyes at you, and suddenly this prop that didn't have too much of like a personality or face,
literally was just going.
Yeah, it looks like very real, and then boom, he's animated. It's done so flawlessly.
No, I love it.
It looks amazing.
And that's how they transition between every story in this, is they like kind of flip it to comic.
Yeah.
And then they animate the comic like moving along to the next pages.
It's so fun.
I love it. because that's what happens is he guides you to the comic that's still by the super great. And it opens up to our first story, which is called Father's Day.
Father's Day.
Now, I don't know if my brain just was not in it. I could not follow the family dynamic here at all.
It was definitely like rushed to be set up. I felt like so there was like the great aunt who was like
very aunt-like,
hosting the party, telling stories about family members, being a gossip. And apparently they go to this Father's Day dinner like every year and no one knows the lore behind Father's Day. I don't understand. They're too old not to know the lore behind Family Father's Day. Yeah,
because like I guess father, they celebrate Father's Day for their dead patriarch essentially. Nathan Gorthop or something like that. But so as story tells it, his daughter Bedelia had a lover, right? And he was a very handsome man or whatever.
Yeah.
And her father, because he's a control freak and just thinks everyone wants his money, because that's the only scenes we really get of her father alive is him sitting in a chair going, "You're a bunch of vultures. All you want is my money." Like,
yeah.
And so her lover was killed in a hunting accident, which means he just got shot in the woods, know. But so legend has it, I guess, in this family, this counts as legend, but that Bedelia then struck her dad dead with an ashtray.
Yeah.
And the setup for this is really weird. Like, you just gotta know you gotta get all these people into this building is pretty much all that really matters, because they have Bedelia, like, also legend has it, she pulls up at 6 on the dot every year and she goes and meditates by his grave.
Yeah.
Which she does not meditate by his grave. She sits there and screams at his grave while drinking Jim Beam. But, that counts as meditation in my book.
The branding, not changed at all.
Nope.
It's the same bottle. It is the same label that it's been since apparently 1980.
Well, I feel like with any like classic spirit, they probably have not changed their logo or their branding or their bottle since then.
Right, but like the design on the like the pictures, like the way it's laid out and the text font, that doesn't.
I'm sure Jack Daniels also looks the same.
We'll have to test that theory because I don't think that's true.
I think it's true.
A lot of brands, they change their font and like different things about it throughout the years. We're testing this theory later.
I agree, but I think it's, especially for whiskey, I think it's different for like spirits.
We'll find out.
We will find out. We will.
So on the note of that ashtray, so if you look closely, that ashtray makes it into multiple of the scenes in this movie.
Like
and multiple of the stories.
Oh.
It's in Father's Day. It's seen in the lonesome death of Jordy Verrill next to the cash box. It's on Richard's nightstand in Something to Tide You Over. In the crate, it's on Henry's desk, and they're creeping up on you. It's the soap dish that he picks up soap, and it's the soap dish.
That's fun. I like Easter eggs.
Isn't that fun? Oh, and it's on Billy's desk from the epilogue.
Oh, okay. I was like, who's Billy?
Yeah. So fun.
Very fun.
My fun facts.
Thank you for the fun facts.
You're so welcome, actually.
But, by the way, the father, all he wanted was his cake, apparently. Because
the scene of him screaming for this cake, I'm like...
Because we get to, as Bedelia is sitting there getting drunk at his grave, we get flashbacks of the actual events, and it's kind of, you think you get kind of a reveal in there, but it's pretty much exactly as described earlier by the hoity-toity great aunt,
Mhm.
But he's just sitting in his chair like a little baby, just going like, "Where's my cake? I want my cake!" Like, you vultures.
Well, I feel like it's kind of implied too that he's like ill or something, because he's got like something coming out of his mouth while he's screaming. There's like white stuff.
I think it's just spit because he's screaming his head off.
I mean, I guess it looked a little bit extra, but when Bedelia pulls up, she sits at his grave and we get that little scene of him. And she starts out so sweet. Sitting there, she grabs these flowers. She's like, "Happy Father's Day." Blah, 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 blah. And then is like, You're the worst.
Yeah.
I hate you so much.
It's just like, you never saw that coming, did you? Like,
You deserve to be dead.
and I don't doubt it. But, if there's one thing that your terrible father could be awoken from the dead by, it's pouring Jim Beam on accident. Because I don't know if it's meant to look like this, but that is what it looks like woke him up. It looks like she dumped the Jim Beam, and then he woke up. But yeah, he wakes up and just like grabs her. It's just, "Where's my cake?
Where's my cake?" And I have to say, actually, the effects on the vocals in this movie are honestly really good. Because he sounds cool.
He does. They do a good job of that throughout in all the stories.
Yeah.
But in this one, it's so gravelly and like
Yeah. And I guess because there was like a person doing that, you can see maggots all over the corpse. They used Rice Krispies to look like maggots in the corpse. There's like one like real maggot. The one I think that's in the eyeball socket is real. And then the rest of them are like Rice Krispies.
So you see the one real one, and then your brain tricks you into thinking the rest are real too.
Yeah.
I like that. All the makeup effects, I'm pretty sure, were done by legend Tom Savini. So this is really just a meeting of the great horror minds. Stephen King writing, Romero directing, and you have Tom Savini doing the effects.
Yeah.
That's absolutely stacked right there. This seems like it was probably just a fun passion project for all three of them. And while I would say that the like makeup effects in this movie are very corny, they're very I'll say, I don't want to say, they're very haunt attraction. I wouldn't say Spirit Halloween. I think that's a little insulting.
Well, it feels like
Halloween decorations, like come to life. And the father is a good example of that, because he just looks like zombie animatronic #1 at the local haunted house,
Yeah. A little more high budget than that. I would almost say it feels more like you went to like it kind of feels like Riding the Haunted Mansion, except more graphic.
Yeah, I more meant in terms of like the vibes.
Yeah.
Not budget. Just vibes.
Okay.
Because obviously the effects are much higher quality than like a local haunt attraction. But I like that he just doesn't say anything else besides, like, "I want my cake." And this I'd say Father's Day is a great setup story, because from here it's just kind of people going, "Where's Bedelia? I'm going to go check on her." Gets killed. "Where's the person who went to go check on Bedelia? I'm going to go find him. It was a guy." Gets killed. Like,
and I gotta say, the first guy that goes out, who's like the
Ed Harris, I think, is the actor.
Yeah.
I think that's his name. He's in a lot of stuff, and I would guarantee this is one of the first things he was ever in. Ed Harris drunkenly stumbles into the grave, and he's just kind of laughing about it.
And then he sees the like gravestone move again, and he just lays there.
Yeah, he just kind of was like, I think he thinks he's moving it with his weight, though.
But then he doesn't move.
Because he's like trying to slowly move, and then it'll move again. He was like, oh.
Oh, that makes so much more sense. I was like, does he think if he doesn't move, the person who's moving it is going to think there's just another dead body in there or something?
No.
Like,
but unfortunately, he pulls Bedelia's body, like thinking it's like a tree root or something. He pulls it up, and he has like no reaction.
No.
And then you just get I want my cake, and then he like I guess he uses like the force.
He's got a ghost force
to like pull the gravestone, and he once again the gravestone heading towards him. He just kind of goes, ah,
yeah,
and then dies.
It's so funny.
It's great.
But then the great aunt and great niece, whoever, and gay, also nephew, one of the gayest men you've ever seen be gay.
He has the vibe of everyone had that one teacher that they were convinced was gay, and then they go, me and my wife.
Yes.
And you're like, no way.
That one history teacher that you thought, history or English, that you thought
history,
so hard.
English, maybe choir director.
Yeah, okay, fair. Choir director's fair.
It's usually those are the three. Maybe the rare math teacher here or there.
Maybe, but those are normally the coaches. So
but
who knows?
When you get that moment when they go my wife, and you're like, nuh-uh.
No, you don't have a wife.
Yeah,
your
like,
kids. You have kids.
He has that vibe.
Yeah, like that kind of thing.
They're all basically kind of arguing.
Because they're hungry. They've been waiting for Bedelia to come in.
Yeah.
So they can have dinner. And finally, the great aunt's like, fine, I'll go look for him. And she, for some reason, doesn't go out the same way everyone else, like the first guy went out. She goes to go back
She goes to the kitchen.
Yeah, I think she goes to check on the food or something because she's going to go get the food out and then get them.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes to check on the lady who's making the food.
Miss Danvers.
Yeah, Miss Danvers. And the power's all out. And there's these muddy footprints on the floor. And she's like... And what I like about this scene is you see herself compose herself. Like she's scared.
Yeah.
She's like, what in the... Something is... No. I don't live in a horror movie.
This is real life.
This is real life. So she like looks at her reflection in the window of the door and just like... And then just puts her game face on and is like, Danvers, where are you? And as soon as she hits the door open, Miss Danvers' body hits the door and her face is in the little window. She cracks.
It's a good jump scare, too.
It's so good because she turns, she's like, it's not a dead body. Like you can tell in her head, she's like, that's not a dead person. It's not a dead person. It's a dead person. Like she just screams. 10 out of 10 performance here.
And I love how then he just appears.
Yeah.
You know, where's my cake?
Yeah.
And he just grabs her head and just goes, turns it around.
And her head goes from being straight to not even being turned. And then it's on the back.
It's
like, it's so funny.
And, you know, because there's only one plot line in this, then the other two are like, where'd she go? Let's go find her.
Together.
I love this part so much.
Stay close, stranger. The room awaits you after these messages.
They open the door
Yeah.
and he comes out with her head on a little platter with candles in it
Icing.
and icing. He goes, I got my cake.
And there was no need for the jump scare to get me that bad there.
No.
Because he like burst out the door. And I'm like, Jesus.
I almost felt happy for him. It's the way he says it. He just goes, I got my cake. It's very, all of these are very like bedtime scary story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, campfire
And
story.
This is very much that.
Yes.
I got my, I can like see someone's dad going, and then he came out with their head on a platter and he said, I got my cake. And that's the end of that one.
Yeah. And so then we flip through the
I have
pages
a fun
again.
idea.
What?
We should give each one a rating.
Each one gets a
Yes.
rating. How about we rank them?
Okay, we'll rank them at the end.
We'll rank them at the end.
That's a good idea.
I'm just smart.
But then we have the lonesome death of Jordy Verrill. This one just makes me sad.
It's so funny though.
You know, this is starring Stephen King as a little farmer named Jordy Verrill,
Yeah.
and he's not the brightest bulb.
Nope.
But I just feel so bad for him. A meteor lands in, he's a farmer.
Yeah.
A meteor lands in his yard, and you can tell he has like the brain of a third grader.
Yeah.
Like he goes out, he sees the meteor, he gets all excited, you know, and he's like, I wonder how much them up at the colleges would take it for. And he just like it fades
Starts
into a little
daydreaming.
fantasy of him walking in like in his Sunday best with a meteor in a bucket. And he's like, I'll give you $50. And he's like, 200, not $1 less. And like it's just him like basically arguing for $200. I know
For this hunk of rock.
I know it's the 80s and 200 was a lot more money back then, but it's still like set your sights a little higher, Jordy. Because he's
Jordy
like
only needs $200.
because once that little fantasy ends, he goes, I can pay off that bank loan. Bro took out a loan for $200.
I mean,
He might have $200 left on the loan to pay.
maybe
Could be
that's
more
what
than
it
that.
is.
But I like to think he took out a loan for $200.
And you know what I found out from my research? They told him to play Jordy like Wile E. Coyote when he runs off a cliff.
Oh my, that's exactly how he plays it.
That's exactly how he plays it. It's perfect.
Down to the help and gulp. Like, and
Yes.
that's kind of the vibe I get.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Man, down to me feeling bad for him because I always just felt bad for Wile E. Coyote. He's just trying to, nature.
Yeah.
He's trying to, eat. And Roadrunner's just such a dick about it.
It's true.
But he unfortunately he breaks it.
He tries to cool it down.
Yeah, with water, and it
With
breaks
water.
in half.
And it breaks in half, which, as we know,
He has another fantasy of him walking into the college, and they're like, $50 for a broken meteor. I wouldn't pay 2 cents.
it's so funny.
He's like crying and humiliated in his little daydream. And it's just like, oh, I just feel so bad. But
He's like, oh, shucks, I've done it again.
now old Verrill luck. He keeps talking about Verrill luck, like
Oh, it's always bad.
bad luck for the Verrills.
Yeah.
And it gets really sad later when he brings it up, but we're not there yet.
Yeah.
He goes to pick up the meteor, and he gets the meteor juice because there's like weird gushy stuff in the inside on him, and he says my favorite line in the movie, meteor shit. He does eventually get it up. He just decides, hey, I'll go watch some WWF.
Yeah.
And what happens is a bunch of like green alien looking weeds start growing everywhere.
Well, first the fingers he had touched the stone with his hands, or the meteor, and the two fingers he touched it with had first developed these pussy like blisters.
Yeah.
Which he assumed were from the heat of it, so whatever. And when he goes to sit down and hang out and start just, doing whatever, he starts sucking on his fingers. And so he's like taking a swig of his Snapple or whatever.
I think it was like a big bottle like apple cider.
Yeah, something like that.
I don't think Snapple existed yet.
I don't know, but it had a weird brand name
it just
like
said
that.
Apple.
It had an S. I'm telling you it had an S.
I don't think so. I think it just said Apple.
I'm telling you it had an S.
Roll the clip.
And he grabs it and then he looks at his fingers and they turned green. And he has this, like, just the fingertips where he had touched the meteor. And he has another daydream. And he goes to, he goes to call the doctor first. And then he has another daydream where he goes to the doctor and the doctor goes, we're going to have to cut off those fingers.
He really does kind of have the mind of like a third grader. Like his fantasies are on par with like Ralphie Parker in A Christmas Story. Like it's pretty much the same amount of realism.
We're gonna have to cut off those fingers, and he like pulls out a sterilized knife. So, and he's like, "Oh no, I'm not gonna call the doctor."
But then like you see a shot of his outdoors, and the green like weeds are growing like everywhere, and they have like these like kind of weird looking like tendrils coming out too. I don't like it.
Alien. It's alien moss.
Alien moss
is kind of what it looks like.
But meteor shit. It just does that.
Yeah.
And this is where it starts to get sad because he starts getting like literally covered in it.
Yeah, absolutely covered in it.
He's all itchy. And it's very uncomfortable because my brain's like can kind of imagine the itchiness. I'm
yeah.
Like, ugh.
Yeah, exactly.
Still not going to the doctor though.
Nope.
And
because he's gonna cut off his fingers.
He's gonna cut off his fingers. And but he draws a bath.
Mm-hmm.
And he sees like a vision of his dad in the mirror.
Yeah.
And his dad's like, "You take that bath, son, you're gonna die." You saw how the water affected it last time. I guess his dad is his voice of reason.
Apparently.
But I just feel so bad for him because he does eventually get into the water. And we cut to the next morning. And this is where this kind of goofy little story about alien weeds just gets super depressing out of nowhere.
Well, that's where it feels like a Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, it's this goofy little story of the last man left on Earth, and then it turns very dark very fast.
Because that's what this does, is it pans to like a corner, and his house is loaded with the green weeds. It's like completely overgrown. And you see movement, and he just like gets up, and he is literally just a walking like cactus.
He's like the creature from the Black Lagoon or whatever.
That's like a reptile.
But he's all green.
Yeah, fair.
And mossy.
I guess.
He's all green and mossy.
Is he though? He's like a reptile.
Right, but when he comes out of the water,
he looks like a ghillie suit that came to life.
Yeah, there we go. That works.
And he basically just kind of starts going. He literally grabs a shotgun. He's like, "Please let that Verrill luck not hurt me right now." Like,
oh, it's so sad.
Blows his plant brains out.
Yeah.
It really, literally 0 to 100. Like,
yeah.
Like one scene, we have Stephen King with the grass beard talking to himself in the mirror, like, I could just take a real quick bath.
Yeah.
Like, and then next scene,
it turns dark wildly fast.
And man,
then it pans out just to let us know that we're in Maine.
Yeah, of course. Stephen King, you get a little sign pointing to Portland, Maine, and Castle Rock, and
it is showing that the alien moss is starting to grow down the road.
Yeah, but it's still
towards
like
Portland.
Well, of course, it's in Maine,
right?
Even in his stories that don't take place in Maine, he has to mention Maine.
Yeah.
Granted, this is in the movie, but I'm thinking of in The Shining, like literally Jack just goes like from Timbuktu to Portland, Maine. Like,
write what you know, man. Write what you know.
That's true. I guess if I wrote stories, I'm sure Ohio would be relevant because I know the area, so I can make it very lived in.
Exactly.
But that's the lonesome death of Jordy Verrill. It's very
and it
sad.
Just gets darker from here.
Because now we have something to tide you over.
Yeah. Which
this is the one with Ted Danson and Leslie Nielsen in it.
And is the one that I have the most background knowledge on, because apparently it's the episode that everyone loves the most.
It's really good. It's weird because I've seen this before and I forgot this one, but now I'm like, how did I forget? That was awesome.
And I think I've seen it before too, like on TikTok. Like
Probably.
Just this section of Creepshow. Really weird because it started and I was like, I know this. I know this.
But it's cool because in here you see Leslie Nielsen, who's normally known for obviously being in every spoof movie ever in the 1980s, give like one of the scariest performances ever. So,
and what's funny about that is apparently he had a fart machine with him on set. And so right before they'd call action on like almost every scene, he'd play the fart machine, get the entire crew laughing, and then play the scene.
That's weird. That's something.
I don't know. It's funny background knowledge.
I know. I'm just like, I don't know what to do with that information. You take it.
Okay, so we open on this guy who's just watching well, it's Ted Danson. And he's just watching TV on his couch in his robe, and someone's knocking on his door. And at first it feels like they're ignoring him. It feels like he's doing like a sick day off of work or something, and so he's just ignoring watching TV. But he finally gets up and opens the door, and it's Richard, who must, from the context, seems to be his lover's husband.
Yeah.
And the truth has finally come out. And he only lets Richard in because Richard says, well, if you don't talk to me, something really bad's gonna happen to I've already forgotten her name.
Becky?
Becky? Yeah. I think it's Becky.
I think it was a B name.
It was a B. And Leslie Nielsen just kind of walks around talking like completely normal. There is no shake in this guy's voice. He's like, your TV, like your hookups are a little bit weird. And then he sets down this tape recorder of Becky being like, he has me, he's got me, and you gotta come get me, Harry, you gotta come get me. And the whole time, Richard's just laughing, like standing there casually.
When I tell you, like, I did not think Leslie Nielsen could give this horrifying of a performance. Because he is such a terrible human being.
Yeah.
He's so okay with it. Like,
yeah. It's probably the fart machine.
Yeah. Because I mean,
release the tension.
So that doesn't. I love how originally when he comes to the door though, like Harry's like, I bench press 300 pounds.
Yeah.
You sure you want to mess with me? Like,
yeah.
But. Unfortunately, that's not enough to, convince him to just tell you where your lover is.
Yeah.
Because now you're in his Jeep Wrangler on the beach.
Yeah.
So.
And he leads him to the beach, and it's just like kind of talking about how he likes the ocean, but he hates low tide because it kind of smells rotten. And it's like, yeah, you see that hole in the sand? Get in it. Harry's like, no, I'm not going to let you bury me alive.
Yeah, he
goes, well,
he pulls a gun and it's like, shoot me. Like, I'd rather you just shoot me than bury me alive.
Right.
He's like, I just need to incapacitate you. I don't want to kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
But and then like literally every human's nightmare, we cut and he's buried in the sand up to his head.
Yeah. Oh.
And,
terrible.
Oh my God, that would be horrifying.
And Richard's just going on about how it's like being buried in wet concrete.
He's like, move your arms, go ahead, try. He's so scary.
He's so scary because he's just like being so nonchalant about it. And he keeps going on about like the tides or whatever and like the beach and
how the beach is the beach and the tides exist. And well, it's relevant because he literally pulls up with a giant antenna, a television, and a VCR player and like a camera, and he just sets it all up. And he's like, you're just gonna sit here and you're gonna watch this. Like,
yeah.
And I don't know how this man just has these capabilities, but he's
so rich.
Yeah, but
that's all we know about him is that he's the richest Richard you've ever heard of.
He is a Richie Rich.
Yeah.
He has his lover whose name keeps escaping us. I think it's Becky. I'm just gonna call her Becky. I don't think it's Becky. I'm
looking. Keep talking.
Has her in the same predicament, but her tide is higher.
Yes.
So he was like, she lost the coin flip, so I had to bury her closer to the ocean, which is so messed up. So, like, was the coin flip just which one was he gonna bury, like, first? And make the other one watch him? So he sets it up and just forces them to watch.
Yeah.
Forces him to just watch her. He's like, tide's coming up soon, so just remember to hold your breath, and then, wait, and then you should have enough time to just get a good breath in, until the TV shorts out. Bye. And
yeah,
then,
it is Becky.
It is Becky? Okay, cool. Now that we're basically done talking about it, we know her name. Whoops. But he just drives up and he has both of their cameras on a live feed, and he's just watching them and giggling, like, hold. And he just keeps saying things like, "Oh, hold your breath."
Yeah, he gives Harry this whole pep talk, basically about like, well, if you don't panic and you make sure you take a good deep breath when the tide rolls away, and then you hold your breath, then maybe the tide will wash the sand away and you can get out. Basically, like, tries to give him that hope.
Yeah, which is, oops.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
Yeah.
but he's literally sitting in his like little bachelor pad now. I guess now it's a bachelor pad, but watching them both on televisions, having the time of his life.
Right.
And I guess he just doesn't care to watch it to the end.
It's so
he goes to
Bond villain.
bed. He just goes to bed.
Well, I mean, it's kind of tiring at some point, right?
I guess so. He buried 2 holes today.
Yeah.
Like I had to dig a 2-foot hole to plant a tree, and that was like annoying. I can't imagine how people how people like dig like a 6-foot grave when someone dies, like by hand.
Ugh.
Like that sounds miserable.
Yeah.
Is that why it always takes all day in movies? Like it always like cuts to nighttime and they're still digging.
Yeah, probably.
But anyway, he goes back to where he buried Ted Danson.
Yeah.
And no body. He's not buried in the sand anymore, but he's just like kind of telling himself, he's like,
oh, he washed out with the tide.
The tide got him and washed him out. That's right. That's what happened.
And then he looks over and he sees we saw this little pail on the beach earlier, and that's still buried in the sand. So that makes him go a little, what? And then he just, lets it go.
He picks up the bucket, dumps the sand out, goes, yep, the tide, that's what got him.
Yep.
Do you not think that maybe he got buried under more sand?
Right?
Like, the TV was buried by sand. Why couldn't have Ted Danson been buried by the sand?
Right.
I mean, he wasn't.
Isn't that the plan?
Yeah. I think it's more to drown him, but
but then also that'd be how the body would be gone.
Fair. But he drives home and we kind of just see I love me some Pirates of the Caribbean. They kind of look like you kind of get glimpses of them, and they look like they're in Davy Jones's crew.
Oh yeah, they look great. I think they look awesome.
So yeah, we get ocean zombies in this.
Yes.
See, I guess I got so lost in the plot of this, like that I was not even thinking about. Oh yeah, this is Creepshow, so something supernatural's gonna happen. My brain's thinking, oh, I'm watching a revenge thriller. he lived and he's gonna get his revenge,
right?
But no, they're both the zombies.
Yeah,
Becky and Harry, zombie ocean people,
right?
And I just love. There's a lot of creature invading home in this movie.
Yes,
because that's pretty much. It's a lot like Father's Day after this bit.
Yes.
It's basically these 2 ocean zombies
breaking into his
house
home
and freaking him out.
Yeah.
And except they don't just kill him. They
make him, so they finally corner him and they're like, come back down to the beach with us.
And I love how he starts just shooting them and it does nothing but make gross like greenish black sludge come out.
That effect looks really, really good.
But they're just like, come with us. Hold your breath, you might make it.
Yeah.
Like the ending of this though is so weird.
So they take and they get him back. Well, first he locks himself in the bathroom. What was funny about this scene is you're just seeing him like lean on the door and try to listen for them and do all this crazy stuff, like, the normal stuff. And he finally relaxes and backs away. And then they're right behind him.
It's a good jump scare.
Shocker.
But it kind of just, they get him and they basically just give him a taste of his own medicine.
Yep.
It does its comic book thing with him with his head sticking out of the sand and he's just like screaming, I can hold my breath for a long time.
Yeah.
And that's Tide.
Yeah, so a couple more things. for this segment. So Ted Danson said he tried to avoid his daughter like on set because she must have been on set with him after coming back from the dead in that ocean zombie costume. And so he's like spends all this time like avoiding her and trying to stay away out of her way. And after all that, she comes up to him and goes, "Oh, hi, Dad." Like he was like, "I'm gonna traumatize this girl. I don't want to do that." And she's just like, "Oh, hi, Dad." And so also there was an alternate ending written for Something to Tide You Over that found two policemen dropping by to investigate Richard's like panicky but true claims of Harry and Becky invading his beach house, and they think he's drunk. So Richard attempts to prove it by showing them the camera footage of both the zombies, but instead he plays the footage that he recorded of the two of them getting drowned by the tide.
Justice.
And he's like, "Oh, it's been set up." And then it would have smash cuts from there of Richard's murder trial and being convicted. Oh, and then him in the gas chamber laughing hysterically while his life gets choked out of him, saying, "I can hold my breath for a long time." So it still ended the same way, but in a very different. Yeah.
A little more, some extra steps.
That's a little bit.
The whole thing reminds me of The Fog. I don't think you've seen The Fog.
I have not.
But the way that the zombies look and the like fact that they move, literally fog moves in with them on the camera.
Mm-hmm.
It has a very similar vibe, and I'm not sure if The Fog came out before or after this, actually. It might be 1981, but I'm not 100% sure. But that is the end of this one. That leads us into
the crate. With some great familiar faces in it.
This one's weird.
This one's really weird, but also great.
We're in a college town, and we're at this like hoity-toity professor party. And that's where we're kind of meeting our main band of characters. There's two professors of note. There's, was it Dexter?
Dexter, yeah.
Dexter, and, oh God, what was the other guy's name? Oh God, I didn't write it down.
Dexter and Henry.
Henry? Yeah, Henry.
Henry, who is not in Little House on the Prairie, even though I thought he was in Little House on the Prairie.
Who's he played by?
He was played by Hal Holbrook.
Okay. He kind of looked like Gregory Peck a little bit.
I thought he was from Little House on the Prairie, but he was not. He just was in multiple episodes of NCIS. So I don't know. I just thought that was a guy that I knew. I also thought that Dexter was it's Fritz Weaver, but I thought it was the guy from Pet Sematary.
Oh, okay. What guy? Judd?
Yeah, I thought it was Judd.
It's not Fred Gwynn.
No, it's not. I thought it was though.
Fred Gwynn sounds like this.
I mean, I know that, but still, he's an actor, James.
Sometimes.
He can sound like other things.
Sometimes dead is better.
I'm okay.
But yeah, hoity-toity professor party, and there's one outlier, and this is very obnoxious lady, and her name is, oh God, it's escaped me. It's an old lady name. Oh man, we were bad with Wilma. There's a lot of people in this. Okay, there's a lot of names to remember.
There's a lot of things going on here.
And she's Henry.
Henry, yeah.
She's Henry's wife, and she basically has him by the balls, and just belittles him all the time. And then Dexter, he's a single man. He's a bachelor who hits on grad students. So we got quite the bunch here, you know.
Stay close, stranger. The room awaits you after these messages.
And, you know, they're just sitting here talking about renting and real estate and such.
Mm-hmm.
And Dexter gets a call from the janitor because the janitor found a crate under the stairs.
Yep.
That was marked for an Arctic expedition in 1834 or something like that.
Yeah.
I think that was the year. And he's like, "This is weird. Can you come here so we can open it?" Which is like, okay.
I mean, yeah.
And the thing is, like, this is the janitor. Like, if it was like a colleague, I'd be like, that makes more sense. But the janitor,
evidently, he's been working with the janitor for a couple of years because he seems to get along with him really well, and I guess he trusted him to watch that grad student to make sure he ate or something.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I sent the grad student out to get some hamburgers because that kid just don't eat.
because there's also a grad student character whose name escapes me.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I guess his thing, he's basically just there to die. Let's be honest. But he's also in the building. So Dexter leaves the party, and then we get probably the wildest scene in this movie. Or just kind of out of nowhere, Henry just goes, "Hey, Wilma," pulls out a gun, shoots her in the head. She slouches down on the chair. Everyone is silent. Everyone then just starts going. One goes,
claps.
"Bullseye, great shot." And I was
so
like,
weird.
I remember the first time I watched this going, "What?" Like,
I was like, not where I thought this was heading, but okay.
And it just cuts back to reality. It was a fantasy.
Yeah, and Wilma's like, "Are you stupid or something?" Like
So you get some establishments here. Dexter is basically de facto head of the department right now because whoever the head of the department is out of town.
Yeah.
Henry has some real he has some homicidal ideation going on with his wife that he clearly really does not like.
Yeah.
I think, you could get a divorce. That's probably a better option, but these are the cards we have. Maybe he's Catholic.
Yeah. I guess so. But they open up the crate and this monster, or no, first the janitor, he like opens it up and he looks in and he goes, "Ooh, emeralds," and reaches his hand in, and then this it very clearly was the eyes that Michael Jackson has in the Thriller music video. And he reaches his hand in and something chomps at his hand. Shocker.
And I love when we get a good look at it. It literally looks like the Jack Link's Sasquatch mascot, but with sharp teeth instead.
Well, because I was expecting fully like the werewolf looking thing, like from the beginning of Michael Jackson's Thriller. He looked like, from the eyes and stuff, it looked like American Werewolf in London. Like,
but no, we get Jack Link's.
Yeah, it was fun. I thought
like
it was
the
cool.
Jack Link's
and actually,
Sasquatch.
Funny story. So on set, they called this animatronic Fluffy.
Aw, that's nice.
This is Tom Savini's very first full animatronic he ever made.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Go
he
Fluffy.
did
a good job. I liked him.
I liked Fluffy. I thought Fluffy looked really scary and cool. So
don't get me wrong. I know I said he literally looks like the Jack Link's mascot, but in a good way.
Yeah,
He's a scary version.
he's very scary and cool looking. But he just eats up the janitor.
Yeah.
Who is played by Don Kiefer. I have lots of fun facts about this movie. Sorry.
Who's Don Kiefer?
Don Kiefer, what's important about him is he was in an episode of Twilight Zone.
Oh, okay. That checks.
And in Twilight, he was in that episode, The Good Life, which I'm pretty sure is the one that's super important because it was one of the first horror kids things where the kid keeps making wishes and like turning people into things. And in that episode, he's turned into a Jack-in-the-Box. And in Creepshow here, it kind of echoes that because he just gets eaten into the box and disappears. So, yeah.
It's kind of fun.
A little echo there.
There is a lot of questions that go kind of unanswered in this one. One of them is, does he literally just eat the entire body?
Just
because you don't see any of the bodies ever.
no, and they do like say that. They're like, how much can this thing eat?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I guess he's been in a box for over 100 years. So,
yeah.
This obviously makes Dexter a little bit hysterical.
yeah.
So he runs upstairs and runs into the grad student, and he's all like,
He plays this so well.
"Oh no!" Like, this is the most I've ever bought someone being hysterical in a movie.
He's like, and I'm like, oh my god, he's going insane.
And he's just like, the grad student's just like, okay, I'm gonna go check it out. He's like, no.
Because the grad student's like 100% sure this man is high.
Yeah, he's like, okay, you know, pink elephants and stuff, you know, like,
right.
And the grad student, like, then he sees all the blood, and he's like, oh
shit,
something did actually happen down here.
Yeah.
And he's like, the creature drug itself in the crate back under the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
And the grad student's like, I want to get that shoe. I want to, because the janitor's shoe is just outside the box,
right,
all
for like
mauled. He's like, I want to get that shoe. I want to measure the bite marks.
Right.
And he gets it. But unfortunately, Mr. Fluffy is not in his box.
Yeah.
He's also under the stairs.
Yep.
And he then mauls the grad student. So,
Yay!
hooray.
Hooray.
And it's brutal. Like, the bite marks are kind of cartoonish. Like, they're literally shaped like jagged teeth. It's kind of funny. But then, like, this movie's practical effects are great. But whenever they switch to a fake body, it's a bit extremely obvious.
Yes.
Because it's switched to like a mannequin getting its face like slashed open. And you're like, ooh. It's still gross though. That's the thing. It's at least still.
But after this scene, Dexter runs himself over to Henry's and again completely selling the hysterical.
Wait, don't forget. Before this happens, we get another shot of Henry in the house, and Wilma's leaving to go party, basically. And as she's leaving, he starts strangling her to death with his tie.
Yeah.
And then it cuts back to reality again. He's just like, have fun, Wilma.
So he starts explaining what all happened in the most...
in hysterics.
Absolute, just laughing. And
and
Henry keeps like plying him with alcohol to just try to get him to calm down enough to tell him what actually happened. And once he's kind of got the story figured out, Henry's like, all right, well, you stay here. I'm gonna go relieve myself real quick. And Dexter's like, you're such a good friend or whatever. And he walks away and I'm like, Yeah, he's such a good friend who's about to call the cops on you because he thinks
He
you're
does
fucking
not
crazy.
call the cops.
He does not call the cops.
He straight up
Drugs him.
He's like, oh, how about I get you one more drink? He's like, no more drink. And he's just like, one more, just for the both of us.
Right.
You know, and he drugs his drink, and Dexter, you know, now he's at peace. He has fallen asleep.
He has fallen asleep.
And you're kind of wondering, what's your plan here, Henry? He goes and he starts cleaning up the mess, but he writes a note for Wilma. And Wilma gets home, and it's just like, you know, Dexter's gotten himself into some trouble. You know how he likes those grad students. I think he did something really bad.
Yeah.
I'm not good at dealing with these things, but, you know, you're really up front. You should come meet me down at the laboratory.
And Wilma's like, this is the juiciest gossip I've ever heard in my
she's
life.
like,
I will be right there.
Dexter. Like, see, like, Wilma is insufferable, but at the same time,
Does she deserve to die?
she doesn't really deserve murder. Because essentially, what Henry all he heard when Dexter was explaining the story is there is a creature that'll eat anything that gets near it.
Right.
You can kill your wife with it.
Right.
And be completely scot-free.
Exactly.
Because that's his plan.
And Wilma walks right into this because she comes down there and he's like, the girl, he's laughing because he's now in hysterics basically. Because
Yeah.
he just he goes and cleans up all the blood, all the stuff. So he's like laughing in hysterics. And she's like, why are you laughing? This is so terrible. What is wrong with you? And then he's like,
You just have to see it.
you just have to see it. She's hiding under the stairs like she won't move. And she's like, oh my God, what did he do to her? Not like, oh my God, I'm worried for this person who has been probably raped by her professor. Like,
It's like, oh my God,
she's
what's
like,
going on?
what did he
beat
do?
her?
Did he beat her?
Like,
Wilma, what?
and she's like, and the thing that's funny is she goes back there to look and nothing happens. And then like Henry just like grabs her, is like, dinner time,
Wake up,
dinner time.
Dinner time.
And then it kind of awkwardly ends, and she just goes, what the hell was that? And what's going on? Like, and you kind of think they're going to do a little subversion, like the creature's gone now.
Right.
But no, it just pops out.
It just pops out after that.
And it kind of like, at first glance, I thought the creature literally grabbed her, looked at Henry, and went, thank you. I don't think that's actually what it happened. It's just what it looked like.
Yeah.
And he ate her.
Yeah.
And the end is kind of like this kind of haunting moment where him and Dexter are sitting there playing chess.
Well, first he locks up the crate, takes the crate out.
He's telling him about it.
Oh
while they're
yeah,
playing.
sorry, my bad.
It's cutting between like them, and he's just like, I took him. I had 3 bodies and a creature locked in. You know, I threw it in the quarry. It's 57 feet underwater now, and like. You can tell when it cuts back to like them in like the current time, Dexter's like pissing himself. He's like, you did what? Like, he's like, no one will. He basically says like, oh, it's all behind us. But you can tell he's saying basically like, no one will believe you if you tell on me,
right.
You know, like, and that's kind of kitty cat. Sorry, I got distracted. And that's essentially it shows the creature's not actually dead at the end, but
yeah, that he breaks out.
He breaks out of the crate.
That is
but that's the end.
That's the end of that one.
And after that, we're on to the very last of our mini movies, and
They're creeping up on you. Oh.
This one is so like the story of this one is kind of nonsensical.
Yeah,
it's quite literally just I'm gonna be honest. I think this is the weakest.
Yeah,
in terms of at least in terms of like story.
Yeah. Basically, the guy's a germaphobe.
Yeah,
and basically the richest man in the world.
Yeah, he's basically Scrooge.
Yeah.
Like he like is someone's like widow calls him and is like, "You're the reason my husband's dead." Like, and he's like, "Who cares?"
Right.
Like, he's just a despicable man with a bug problem.
Yes. He's a complete germaphobe. And he starts seeing cockroaches in his house.
Yeah.
And he's calling everybody trying to get rid of these cockroaches, and he threatens to get his building superintendent fired. And they just keep appearing everywhere. And what you start to notice is he starts killing them, but then they like disappear. There's like no guts or anything as he keeps killing them and as there keeps becoming more. And essentially there's a blackout. The bug problem gets worse and worse and worse. He puts himself in, he has like a containment chamber.
Yeah.
Because this man is that much of a germaphobe. And he goes to lay down in the bed. He's like, these cockroaches can't get me here. Cockroaches covered.
There's also that really weird scene where him and that one guy are talking to each other through that like hole in the door.
Yeah, and he's racist.
Yeah, he's racist. But like every time they talk, it like the little window like automatically zooms in on their mouths. And like then they talk weird.
Yes.
Like I don't know how to describe. This is not a good one. I'm just gonna say it. If
Yeah.
you don't like bugs, it'll give you the creepy crawlies.
That's
But that's pretty much it.
That's the creepiest part.
Basically, the power comes back on. The bugs are seemingly all gone, but no, they're all inside of him now. And
Yeah.
they
Well, he freaks out so bad about the bugs that he has a heart attack. First.
I didn't realize that. Even
Yeah,
happened.
and then he ends
It
up
was
on
kind
the
of
ground.
flashing the lights and everything was going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's now just the bugs all burst out of his body. It's pretty gnarly.
Yeah.
But that's all I really even have to say about this
Yeah.
one. Honestly,
My theory for this one is
kind of a weak ending.
We find out at the beginning of it that there's a merger basically happening, and he basically screwed this guy out of his company.
Yeah.
And that guy ended up committing suicide and blaming it was Upton or something
like that
for it. And I think because we find out these bugs aren't real.
Yeah.
They're like in his head or something. I think it's like a curse.
Like a little bug curse. But they're there in the end. As it pans out from his body, like they're all in that room. It's like an ocean of them.
Yeah, but I think that's just supposed to be like the curse or whatever, because there weren't actually any bugs in there to begin with.
Well, speaking of the bugs being real or not real, the bugs were real.
Yes.
And they did kill the cockroaches on camera.
Yes. And
it's like they're cockroaches, but whatever. But I bet PETA wasn't happy.
And they were the like most expensive part of the movie.
Was getting all the cockroaches.
They were 50 cents a piece.
And there's a lot of them.
For at least 250,000 of them. So
that is a lot. That's a lot of bugs.
All right, so our rankings.
Well, are we gonna come to a consensus, or do you think we have different rankings?
I bet we could come to a consensus.
Last place is definitely They're Creeping on You.
Yeah, I think They're Creeping on You goes to last. I think the fourth place goes to Father's Day.
I agree. I like all the other ones. The only one I don't like is They're Creeping on You.
Yeah.
But I'd say, yeah, Father's Day is probably fourth. And man, I don't want to do it, but I think The Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill is third.
I think that's third.
Now this is where it gets hard. Because I think The Crate and Something to Tide You Over are both really good.
Are both amazing.
I think I personally like The Crate more. That's just me.
Okay, because that's what I was going to say.
Okay.
I think the story's more...
the story's better.
It's more dynamic.
Yeah. And I think that the Leslie Nielsen's performance in Tide
Is
is
what completely sells
so
it.
awesome and so scary, but also like it's very James Bond until the very end.
Yeah,
Like,
he is very much a Bond villain.
and I mean that's okay.
He lives in a
But
Bond villain house.
That's how I would rank these.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll make this our anthology thing. We rank the stories after.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's Creepshow.
Yeah.
There's a Creepshow 2. We will probably not be covering it, at least right away.
Yeah.
And there's the TV series, which I don't know if we're
We'll
ever going to get
see.
into. We might watch it on our own.
We'll
for
see about
fun.
TV series.
But, in the future, who knows? If you want to chat, you can do that at discord.gg/Jumperscape. And what's crazy is if you scroll down, after joining the horror community on our server, there's 237 Q&A. And you can ask us all kinds of goofy questions. They don't even have to be horror questions. They can just be
questions.
They can just be questions. You can ask what our favorite barbecue food item is. Oh, mine's brisket.
Say that again.
Favorite barbecue item?
Okay.
Like food item?
You said like favorite barbecue of food item.
Oh, yeah, it's because I have a stutter. Thank you for pointing it out.
Okay. All right.
Speaking of Q&A, Lactating Gator wants to know, what are your thoughts on the Nosferatu remake coming out later this year? I think it looks awesome.
We're planning to see it.
I am so excited for it. Like, the vibes look kind of immaculate. Like, I love Robert Eggers. You have an interesting relationship with Robert Eggers.
Complicated past.
But I think we will. I think no matter what, it'll probably be a great movie. Whether she enjoys it is up for debate, but
we'll see.
I think it'll objectively probably be a good movie.
We'll see.
And I don't mind it as a remake because the original came out in the 1920s.
Right.
So, like, sure.
Fair.
Slipstream 19 wants to ask, if you include the rest of the library hosts, so the hosts on our other show, The Library, who would be who if you guys were the Scooby-Doo gang?
Oh
that's
boy.
Fun.
Okay. So Austin is Fred.
Yeah, Austin's definitely Fred.
For sure.
Connor is Scooby-Doo.
Yeah. I think you're Shaggy.
I'm definitely a Shaggy. You're a Velma. I'm sorry, I don't think you're a Daphne.
My glasses.
Because Shane is a Daphne. Shane is definitely a Daphne. I'm sorry, Cheyenne. I don't know what's gonna happen when those two split up. Let's split up, gang.
Let's split up, gang.
That was a fun question. Send us more questions like those. I
That's
like
so
those.
fun.
Kyle wants to know, with Chucky's season coming to a close, which movie would you remove from the franchise entirely?
Seed of Chucky.
Yeah, I guess if I had to pick, I still think like I wouldn't remove any of them because they all still like hold like a relevance to what the franchise is currently doing. But
if you had to, Seed of Chucky.
if I had to, like if we could maybe just change it, like make it not as horrible.
Yeah.
Also, I loved the segments in each episode where you point out how dumb police are in Chucky. Have you ever thought about being a lawyer?
Yes.
You have thought about being a lawyer?
I did start. So I did a couple semesters of poli-sci, planning to go to law school. Because I wanted to be a lawyer for the teachers union.
Yeah.
But that's a whole lot of school.
Yeah, a bit much.
But yeah. So yes, I have thought about being a lawyer.
Okay.
I'm good at the loopholes.
Connor's Big Booty Brute asks, if you could put your soul in a doll, what doll would you choose? We'll change it to if you had to.
Okay, I have to, because this all sounds terrible. I guess. Oh, I don't know. Maybe one of those really, really realistic looking mannequins.
One of those really realistic mannequins?
Yeah. Because then I could just keep being a person.
That's a boring answer. You could have picked like a G.I. Joe, okay? Like,
I don't want to be a G.I. Joe. I want to be a person. I'm not planning to commit murders as a doll.
Fine. Boring.
What about you?
The good guy doll in my room. Because
Yeah,
I could scare people.
I should have expected that.
Yeah, like, duh.
He just wants to be Chucky.
Yeah, I could scare people. I wouldn't kill anybody.
I at least wanted to be something other than Chucky.
But that's all the questions we have for today, unfortunately. I would like to take a brief minute to shout out our Patreon at patreon.com/Jumperscape. If you also want to greenlight some shows, give us some extra support, not on a monthly basis, you can go to Ko-fi, which is ko-fi/Jumperscape, and you can help us out there as well. And right now, you can get early access to the video podcast of the library. Shout out Patron of the Month, Aussie ODST. You're a cool guy. Yeah, that's the end of the episode. Bye.
All right. Bye, guys.
Thank you for joining us this evening, stranger. If you enjoyed your time with us, please consider supporting us at patreon.com/Jumperscape. Or join the community at discord.gg/Jumperscape. We thank you for your listenership and hope you enjoyed.